when the president speaks, we do listen. And President Trump this morning on his Truth Social platform posted this, and I'm just going to read his post. Okay, this is from President Trump this morning. Quote: "The Washington whatevers," he put that in quotation marks, "should immediately change their name back to the Washington Redskins football team. There is a big clamoring for this. Likewise, the Cleveland Indians, one of the 6 original baseball teams with a storied past, are great Indian people in massive numbers, want this to happen. Their heritage and prestige is systematically being taken away from them. Times are different now than they were 3 or 4 years ago. We are a country of passion and common sense. Owners, get it done." And he put owners and get it done, followed by 3 exclamation points in caps. And again, that was from President Donald Trump this morning on his social media. This is not a can of worms I was really expecting to open. I kind of felt that once the name change took place from Cleveland Indians to Cleveland Guardians, that this was a settled issue. I mean, look, I'll open up the phone lines. The only thing I ask is we welcome your feedback. I just ask we keep the conversation respectful, okay? 216-474-0092. Do you think that the Dolan family or the Blitzer family, once they assume majority ownership of the ball club, should Cleveland Indians return? We were talking in the break, Nick. I had said, as a white man, personally, I never found Cleveland Indians to be racist, offensive, etc. Me personally. I saw the Chief Wahoo logo for the caricature that it was. But as a white man, I understand and respect if those in the Native American population and that heritage found it to be disrespectful, offensive, derogatory, however you want to describe that. It's not on me to tell them not to be offended by something.
Right. This is a topic that I have actually done a lot of research on. In 2019, before the MLB All-Star Game, when Chief Wahoo was being phased out, I wrote a feature story. I wrote a feature story for the Ohio Public News Service.org. And I talked to Sundance, who is a member of the Muskogee tribe, and he's the executive director of the Cleveland American Indian Movement, who explained their whole beef with Chief Wahoo to me in the most basic, clear cut and dry terms. And they took offense, not with the logo, not with that people wanted to wear it on the hat. It was, quite frankly, because they were using it to make money. They were using their imagery for their tribes and their heritage.
So they didn't have a problem with the logo itself. They had a problem with the fact that the baseball team was profiting off the logo.
Correct. And that was from the executive director of the Cleveland American Indian Movement, who at the time was very vocal in removing Chief Wahoo, in removing the name Cleveland Indians. It was the monetization of the logo, of the name, that they really took offense with. And it was a really cool story that ran on the public news service. It's still up. The Cleveland Scene picked it up as well. It's still up. And I put a lot of time, energy, and effort into it because I felt like you, Terrell, truly, as a white man who grew up in this town, I only knew them as the Cleveland Indians. And I really couldn't understand why anyone would find that to be offensive or racist, especially when you hear the reason why they were called the Cleveland Indians because of Louis Alexis and all of the heritage.
For me,
so it was cool to talk to people who actually did find offense in the logo and to understand why they felt so passionately about scraping it from everything.
Right. I mean, for me, like, I can really understand why folks would be offended. And it got to a point where I always tried to avoid saying Washington Redskins, and I always tried avoid writing Washington Redskins. And this was before they did their name change consideration and they went to Washington Football Team and then ultimately Washington Commanders. This was years before that. I was just me personally, I was more uncomfortable with that because you're talking about skin tone.
Right.
And look, I think that, and I think President Trump on his Truth Social post, I do feel like he raises a pretty fair point. You can honor a group of people without being racist towards them or having racist imagery or whatever. You can still honor. I mean, look, we still have the Chicago Blackhawks. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Atlanta Braves do the tomahawk chop. There's an argument to be made that could be construed as racist to some folks. The fact that you're mimicking a chant or something like, even though I grew up, like, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. They do the tomahawk chop. As a kid, I never once did I think that was something that was demeaning or derogatory. But again, just from my perspective, it's not on me to tell people what they should feel is something that treats them with dignity or treats them with respect or should offend them or should or should not offend them. Like that's not on me. And if you're offended by something, then the last thing I ever want to do is make someone uncomfortable or to be offended or to be making fun of their heritage or their culture. But I think you could still have, because I remember when the Guardians changed their name, it was like, and I would come on and I would report about it, and the host would be like, yeah, well, what do you think about it? And my response was like, yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with the name Cleveland Indians, but if there are people out there that do, and they feel it's demeaning to them as human beings, then yes, the name should be changed. Yeah. Just because I don't find it to be offensive does not mean it doesn't bother somebody else. And I am of the belief that I'm of the belief, and I realize there are times in my life I fail. And I'm not at my best, but I believe in treating everybody with the same level of respect, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of your preferences, regardless of whatever. You're a human being, and I'm going to treat you the way I hope you treat me. And if I have said something that offended you to your core, it wasn't done with malice. Okay, unless we're in a fight, then I might go in. But you know what I'm saying? So I never found Cleveland Indians to be materially offensive. But what I do remember is covering games and walking up to Progressive Field and seeing the protesters around the ballpark. Now, granted, and I'll admit, I would sarcastically say, well, it's opening day because the protesters are out, or, well, it's the playoffs in baseball because, well, the protesters are out, but the other X amount of games, there's nobody there. There was a fan, I forget the gentleman's name. This is going back to the 90s. This is the coolest thing in the world. He had the muscle
Yes.
Chief Wahoo sign.
Yes.
And every game he would have a different message on. I thought that was like the coolest thing in the world. Major League, and I've said this because I can watch Major League anytime, any place, anywhere. I can recite that movie line for line from start to finish. But since the name change, that movie's even funnier to me because of the Wahoo logo, because of the Indians, because they're terrible, right? Like, the movie becomes even more entertaining. So I am curious to know what folks think about what President Trump had to say. Look, I joke about the Guardians and the fact that they're named after the statues and that, but it's a great name. We're very protective of our community here. It's Cleveland against the world type thing. And there are no Guardian name. There's no other team in any sport, in any league, and the Guardians. Like it's kind of cool. It's unique. Now, I like the fact that they jazzed up the logo with the City Connect. I could really do without the flying baseball with wings, but again, it's not my place to tell people what they should be offended by or not, because I'm not Native American. You know, and if the name Indians is offensive to them, then no, we should just, you know, leave everything the way it is. But if they don't have an issue with it, then yeah, then I'm also not going to sit here and say that you know, they shouldn't consider going back.
Zach Meisel just tweeted out that Guardians president Chris Antonetti had a comment on the team name. If you would like me to read it, it's not very long. This is from Chris Antonetti. I understand that there are very difficult perspectives on the decision that we made a few years ago, but it's a decision we made, and we've gotten the opportunity to build the brand as the Guardians over the last 4 years, and we're excited about the future that's in front of us. That's the statement from your Cleveland Guardians president, Chris Antonetti.
All right, and I just reposted Zach's post on X as well. 216-474-0092. Going to give you an opportunity to react to that. Again, President Trump this morning has called for the reinstatement not only of the Washington Redskins nickname, but he has also called for the reinstatement of the Cleveland Indians nickname. And you just heard Dom read the statement there from Chris Antonetti, who says the team will not be changing its name back. If you haven't heard, we've been touching on it. President Donald Trump took to his Truth Social platform this morning, and I'll paraphrase here. He basically called for the reinstatement of the Washington Redskins as well as Cleveland Indians nicknames. And basically, he said, quote, our great Indian people in massive numbers want this to happen. Their heritage and prestige is systematically being taken away from them. Times are different now than they were 3 or 4 years ago. We are a country of passion and common sense. Owners get it done. And he put the owners get it done in all caps. Again, that was from President Donald Trump this morning. It was an issue that I kind of thought was pretty much settled with the Cleveland Guardians name. President of Baseball Operations, Chris Antonetti, was asked about President Trump's post this morning. This is what Chris Antonetti said via Zach Meisel of The Athletic. Quote, I understand there are very different perspectives on the decision we made a few years ago, but it is a decision we made, and we've gotten the opportunity to build the brand as the Guardians over the last 4 years, and we're excited about the future that's in front of us, end quote. Again, via Zach Meisel, Guardians president Chris Antonetti, in response to President Donald Trump's post this morning on Truth Social, calling for the reinstatement of the Cleveland Indians name.
I got a couple thoughts on this, man. Like, the first, it's hard to read one of these Trump statements without reading it in his voice. Just because he definitely is one that he types how he talks, especially with the capitalizations. Like, you know how the president talks and you know how he inflicts certain words. But the one thing that he puts in here is that there is a big clamoring for this. And that is one thing that you can't take away from the president of the United States is I do this job and I talk to a lot of people. And that is one question that I continue to get. What do you think of the name change? I'm like, the name change happened 4 years ago. Yeah. And people are still asking about the name change because people have an affinity towards the Cleveland Indians because that's what they were for a lot of years.
The Chicago Blackhawks haven't had to change their name and logos. The Kansas City Chiefs haven't had to change their name and logos. The Atlanta Braves have not changed their name and logos. So I do feel like there is a conversation to be had.